there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you're lucky enough to be doing it to. Take a little bo peep at this number here. This is the Glacial 112 here at home in its Arctic weather conditions on Dead Rail. And here we have it on Yamato Harbour. Now this is a Chinese heavy tank, the Tier 8 Chinese heavy tank, the Glacial 112. And for those of you who don't like anime tanks or pretend tanks and have carried on about this one on my YouTube channel, well, you need to pull your heads in because this is in fact a real tank. The 112 and the Blaze WZ are both real tanks. They've just got funky paint jobs, and Wargaming loves a funky paint job, and I gotta tell you, I think this thing looks bloody marvellous. I'm not a big fan of that football camouflage that LTTB has on though, and as such I give him a metaphorical uppercut with 120 millimeters of justice. There, have some justice. This tank is a true heavy tank. It is a bully. It performs exceptionally well up close and personal. It has a very, very trollish armor profile, and in fact, it is phenomenally strong hull down. It can be panned through the hatches, but as long as you keep the tank moving and you keep it angled, you're going to be doing very, very well indeed. Where it struggles, it is mobile enough, but it's not as mobile as, say, an IS-3 and slightly less mobile than an IS-6. And you can see I'm playing with my good mate Hoodie there in the IS-3, and wasn't he just tearing it up? He was cutting a rug deluxe today. He was in Singapore overseeing the production of a new boat for a company that he works with, and as such he was running hotel Wi-Fi ping next to the server, getting 15 to 30, and he was carrying all day long. Dorothy. It's a great looking tank, it's got great armour, it's got a brutishly ineffective gun. And by that I mean it can hit some shots, it can miss some shots. What it does do is reliably pump out 400 damage every time it manages to penetrate the nasties. And that's good because 400 alpha is intimidating and it plays right into the hands of that whole bully boy persona. It side scrapes really well. I found it to be very effective at side scraping. The big problem you're going to have with your armor profile, look out world, there's a Helsing coming through, he wants to come out sideways and get hashtag deleted, is you're going to find that the lower glacis is a lot like the lower glacis on that IS that we're looking at there. It's not very strong and it's a little bit flat. You want to be hiding that lower glacis at all times, which is pretty important. The other thing you're going to struggle with, and this is a legitimate gripe for a lot of the Tier 8 heavies that are premiums, is the penetration numbers on the gun. Oh my goodness, that is a Tiger II disguised as a tomato. If you don't know what I mean, have another gander at this thing as we pull back with AP. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. It is all red, baby. You've got to watch out for that because you're going to be throwing a lot of heat. That's just how it is. The gun, even running double rations, vents, vertical stabilizer, and a gun rammer. I can't get this thing under 0.381 dispersion, and the aim time is an absolutely toasty 6 seconds. That's bad. That's really bad. And as such, you are not going to be a Sniper Deluxe, and that's fair enough. What you are going to be is a tank that can brawl with the biggest and the baddest in the tier, and that, for instance, is the IS-3 Defender and the IS-6. And in fact, I prefer this tank hull down than the IS-6. The Defender's another kettle of fish. It's not an easy tank to take on, but you have the wherewithal in this tank to take on any tanks at Tier 8. You can see that upper plate. Now I want to talk about that upper plate. It is phenomenally well sloped. It is a absolute beast. If you can get that lower glacis hidden, the upper plate will do you a world of favours. The gun and the gun mantlet all combine into one really, really difficult to pen area. I don't know what numbers you'd need to pen the mantlet area, but I couldn't find them on the heavies that I was playing with it in training rooms. The 120mm frontal plate, I think it's sloped at about 60 degrees or something. It doesn't have the same driver's hatch weakness issue that you get with the IS-6. You can be penned through it, but it takes an awful lot. And it's also got that fantastic element of low slung brilliance. In other words, much like the IS-6 and the IS-3 and the IS-3 Defender, It's so low to the ground, which means you can't be seen a lot of times, and you can hide it in a nook and cranny like I am here. And while you will occasionally take some damage, you are very, very strong, and you create a roadblock for anyone that is looking to move on up and get involved with your team. And that's important because this is not a tank that is going to live on its damage per minute numbers. It's got fine numbers for what it is. 5.37 rounds a minute, fully buffed at 400 alpha, with a 6-second aim time, 175 millimeters of pen. And you can see that Glacial 112, he just thrown HE at me. He wasn't going to pen, he wasn't going to get through. You do have weak points on the hatches, and you can see there, as he pops out, I'm all ready to nut him through the hatch, and he goes, no. I know what you're about. I'm going absolutely nowhere. So I have to deal with this Leopard PTA who takes a trip to YOLO Town and gets a one-way ticket only. He doesn't buy the return ticket. See you later, buddy. I really enjoyed playing it. I won a lot in it. No small part due to the fact that I was playing with Hoodie for a bit, and he was on fire, having one of the best little runs he's had in a recent time with me. And I also found that there was a lot of spots where I'd run, of all things, a T-34, and if I took it to those positions, it did great because the hull is so strong and the upper glacis is so strong and the turret is monstrous. And you really do need to be careful though. You can miss a lot of shots, and it's one of those tanks where you can still fire heat and make money, and you are much better off firing the premium ammunition and making the money, because the guys you're coming up against, you've got 175 millimeters of pen on your AP, which is not a lot, but you have 270 millimeters of pen on your heat. That number again, for those of you who missed it, 270. That's also a little bit for me why it feels like a T-34. It has ferociously good pen at this tier on its APCR rounds, and that's something that you can bring to the table here. Heat is a little bit less reliable these days, which is a good thing. Otherwise, this tank would certainly be tremendously overpowered. And you can't always, even on a grey surface, if it's a sloped surface, you'll quite often have issues with it. And you'll note there, I'm firing AP rounds at this T-54, this Super Pershing, because of all the spaced armor and the tracks I'm going to be running into. And I think that's a good part of the game now that heat doesn't work as it used to. You actually have to pay a little bit of attention to what you're doing. But you can see in spots like this where you're hull down and you're very low to the ground and they can't see your lower glacis, you are superior, in my opinion, to tanks like the Defender and the IS-3 because you don't have that pike armor. You can actually angle your upper glacis in this tank, so you can really increase the armor of that upper glacis. Again, heat doesn't like the sharp pikes on German tanks at all. But the gun is atrocious. The gun is a gun built for getting up close and brawling. I do love this tank, but I mean, you can see here, I'm trying to get a pen with AP, and that KV-5 is trying to pen me, and it's just... It's like two very bad tank drivers doing their level best to embarrass each other. Look at it. I mean, the KV-5's radio operator is in fact the most hit human in the world. He has his own personal medical plan. But I'll tell you what, the guy who makes the gun, the bullets for this gun, he's on a mint, because you have to fire a lot of them to pen when you're firing AP. You can see I put that in there just to illustrate. Go to your... I over-angled there too. Go to your heat rounds early and often. It won't hurt you. It makes heaps of credits. You can afford to fire heat. And it really is a stalwart tank. Now, it's not as quick as you might think. Not that you think it would be particularly quick. But the turret traverse with all the bells and whistles on is 32 degrees a second, which is great. That will get you around the traps and do the business in no uncertain terms. And the speed limit is only 32 kilometers an hour, but your traverse numbers on your tracks, after you actually have everything enabled, you know, you're running your double rations, all that kind of stuff, is 34 degrees. And that's more than enough to compete, put it in the right positions, and play it correctly. I think it's fantastic for situations like this where you want to brawl and you want to knife fight with other heavies. And I drove it like tremendously aggressively just because of this. And you can see this KV-4 is going to get me, but I make him drive around trying to get the shot, and he actually has to pull out sideways to get it and get smashed by the Hoodstar. I drove it really aggressively just to find out how it would perform in situations like that. And it was really good. Look, the breakdown on the tank, fantastic armor. The armor profile is nothing short of brilliant. And I like it because unlike the IS-6 and the IS-3 and the IS-3 Defender, it's just got a flat upper glacis. You can angle this upper glacis and really increase the armor profile tremendously. The other thing it has going for it, loves hull down work. All the hull down work you can give it because it hides that lower glacis, and you can angle while you go hull down, creating a very, very tough defend tank. The gun needs a lot of affection and a lot of care. You really have to pay attention and make sure that your shots are lined up and going in. And that's fine because the armor profile is such that you can do that. And it really loves corner fighting. Like corner fighting in this tank, it does the business. Have a look. I mean, there's reds everywhere. I love games like this. It felt just like an old school heavy game. Side scraping an E75, you know, on the main part of Fort Despair. Just trying to dodge shots, taking hits. You can see he's got me in the lower glacis there, did a good thing. That SU-152, just trying to get a hold of him. The Defender parks in, I've got to switch to heat. By the time I pop it in, it bounces, and you're just straightening up that side, giving them nothing, being the bulwark against which they break their faces. Meanwhile, you take the hits, you just do your level best to keep them pinned. You let the guys behind you do the job, and everyone flanks around, and, you know, great games, great fun. Really enjoy games like that. So guys, well worth the grind. I hope you get the tank. It is a absolute pleasure. If I had to relate it in style to any one tank, it would be a cross between an IS-6 and a T-34. But look, it's its own man. It's got a little bit of everything, and like so many other tanks at Tier 8, it's super competitive, and it's going to do very, very well. Until next time, guys, make sure you look after your families, sponsor the channel if you want to, and stay safe on the battlefield.